Hi, this is Kim Watson. Welcome to a weekly outlook. Now, got a lot to cover today in terms of the fundamentals coming out this week, some key fundamentals for the Fed, etc. But before I get onto that, I'm going to run through the technicals pretty quickly of the major markets, major currencies even, and the S&Ps. So, starting with the weekly outlook here on the euro dollar. What I'm looking at the moment, it sort of sits in this bearish trend, and if I put the I should have a bearish trend line across there, it broke the sort of, if you look at this as a bullish trend of any sorts by the time it did it again and again, it sort of broke it a few times. So it is in a bearish trend at the moment. However, we have come to sort of double bottom territory. We was finding support off that weekly 200, and we could see a bit more continuation to the upside. Now we have got some key fundamentals out this week, and what I've noticed is a bit of a softening with the expectation of the interest rate decisions coming in December for the US. So that in itself may see the euro get a bounce. Now it's a long time since we've had a half decent bounce. Well, I say long time. We had a half decent bounce coming in early October. Then around about 9th of October was the start of something. We've seen the start of something potentially last Thursday, and well, to get me really more bullish on this, I'd like to see a break of the trend line here. That would give us on the shorter terms, shorter time frames, a confirmed higher low. We've had some in there anyway, but a more confirmed higher low, and it would give me a little confirmed higher low on this daily basis as well. So that's what I'm looking for on the bullish side. Otherwise, I'm predominantly, if it stays down here and reverses and doesn't break that level, I'm predominantly bearish. It doesn't mean to say I will not trade against on an intraday basis, I would add, but it depends what the 4 hours is showing me. Now, cable. Last week we ended up with the pound dollar with a bullish bar there, coming back to test the underside. It's tested and closed. It touched the 8 moving average, but closed up higher. And well, if it sells off a little bit, maybe may give a little bit more of a bounce. Now again, we sort of didn't quite double bottom here. So it's still in terms of lower highs, lower lows. Well, on this weekly picture, it's not really confirming that quite yet. So we could see a bit more bullishness. And of course, the Brexit talks that are coming in and discussed and going backwards and forwards. We're seeing the comments of such. Leading really into next week would be the key week, but this and the week after maybe. But this week it's potential that we will just sort of get comments coming through. We had a little gap up this morning. It's sold off, filled the gap, and it's pushed back up again. But got potential even now from a daily perspective. It's the way it's consolidating here is to push up towards the monthly R1 and maybe more. It's certainly a whipsaw sort of action there, so there is potential for upside. Okay, the dollar yen. It choked itself for a lot of last week and then ended up positively there, closing up. I'm sort of looking at this in a more bullish way. Has got some more potential to push up this week, but at the moment it's in such a tight little range. To look at today's bar, it is tiny, and well, I'm not going to come any lower than that, but has put this sort of pivotal sort of look in there, not quite a pivot swing, but it does look like it could continue to the upside there. Of course, there's a lot of problems with the dollar yen in terms of the news and the risk factors that come from it. Aussie dollar, well, the Aussie dollar is from a weekly perspective is starting to try and well, it didn't quite close above the trend line there yet, but this week it started and it's pushed up well, continued through a little bit. It looked a bit negative seeing Friday's close there, but at the moment it's looking positive. We've got news out for the Reserve Bank of Australia as well this week, so things could change in quite easily, of course, and I believe that's on Tuesday. We'll have a look in a moment. But for now, it's well, what's it doing? Well, in the short-term time frames, the 4-hourly time frames, it's been putting higher lows, higher highs in. It's closed above the trend line there, so it could be a trend break. But what it hasn't done is broken that prior high there at the moment. It took out this one here, so but hasn't really on this daily basis put a higher low in to confirm this sort of continuation. So bit bitty and lots of risk in with the Aussie dollar this week. Canadian dollar is well, it's still in this expansive wedge pattern. It's not managed to push out. I thought last week it would push on outwards and close upwards, but didn't do too well at that. Had a couple of days of some decent movements, but it was given back the next day, and it's sort of chopping round here. Now, with the potential of oil pushing up again, maybe we could see a correction. I've been really waiting to see if we get a move down to that monthly pivot there, and that could be quite key. See if it gets a bounce off that. From a daily perspective, though, we've been getting higher lows, higher highs, and it quite clearly looks like there's got potential to continue pushing upwards. Okay, that's Canadian dollar, and finally the New Zealand dollar here. Just run through here. Well, it's another one of those. It's sort of trying to break up here. It's sort of put that sort of negative bar in, effectively a higher low that's been confirmed on the break. On Thursday they have the highs that confirmed a higher low. Friday put that horrible little doji bar in. Graveyard doji, which really look quite bearish, but it's been pushing up again today. So that's really, well, in a moment it's going to bring me to the fundamental data behind all this, but that's just carry on looking. I want to look at the S&Ps whilst we're here. So what with the S&Ps, eh? Well, last week on Friday, by the time we got to Friday, it really pretty much turned it around somewhat and gave us a much more bullish looking week. However, we are sitting here on this daily picture, and unless we start pushing upwards beyond that 200, we could still be in the sell zone. It's nothing's completely clear here yet. It was certainly a lot more easier the previous couple of weeks, but well, say previous week, previous move down there, but that big spinning top at the bottom there on the Monday really saw a change in the markets, and Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday pushing up strongly, or pretty strongly. So are we going to see a break beyond this? If we start breaking beyond that 200, well, maybe we've got a bigger correction, and all we've seen is an ABC correction, and this may be a bigger correction towards Christmas. We'll see. However, it's well, sitting there at the moment, as I say, around the monthly pivot. If it breaks the bottom of this, I mean, it's got the weekly pivot below, it might just draw it back to that. If it can break the low of this yesterday's bar, Friday's bar even, perhaps we could see a bigger sell-off coming through. Okay, that's the S&Ps. Now let's just have a quick look. I get asked about gold quickly. I'm just going to run into gold. Let's do it on this chart here. Just look at the weekly picture on gold, and gold is holding up pretty well. Yesterday, last week, ended up a nice hammer there. I say nice hammer, nice doji bar there, but having it sold off back to its weekly 8. And at the moment, well, it looks okay. It's air kissed the monthly pivot overall. It would be nice for it to have ticked that off. It's consolidating where it's sitting now. Friday today, it's not really getting too much movement, but got the potential. I say potential, but then you look at how this market's been moving for long periods, and it's been pretty sideways. Okay, so let's have a look at the sentiment. Well, we'll look at the sentiment. Let's look at the currencies from a fundamental perspective. Now, interestingly, I looked at there's the probability of there's an interest rate meeting, the FOMC meeting on the 8th this week. They're still very bullish in terms of sentiment from the commitment of traders sentiment on both. They've both popped up a little bit, got even more bullish. It's interesting though, November 94% no interest rate change, December 73% up, but however that was 79, so that's actually dropping back a little bit. So there's a bit of indecision, and of course we've got the congressional midterm elections on the 6th. So tomorrow we've got the elections there, which we'll probably see the results of on the 7th in the UK here, the full results of. But so that could I'd leave Trump in there because he's the unknown cannon, and can always create volatility and movers. But there we go. So that's where we are at the moment with the US dollar. So the euro, just to summarize, 0% interest rate, nothing happening in terms of bond change or anything like this. Long position 64%, but there was a bit of from the asset managers sentiment. It dropped down to 64% there, so dropping a little bit. So there's money coming away from the euro a little bit, but it's quite funny. The short side, the money had been coming away for for a change. We actually had a bit of agreement there. So the short side just dropping in terms of percentage. Actually, it was 80% last week, down to 77, and so a bit more of maybe a slight bullishness coming through for the euro. The Italian debt stays on the back burner there, not kicking away, as does Brexit. We've got economic forecasts out later this week, so that's where we are, and the trend at the moment is still technically from a weekly and daily point downwards. The pound, nothing changing on the interest rate decision. However, there was a more hawkish tone last week to the pound, and it's really helped it somewhat. Short side for both the asset fund managers, hedge fund managers at the moment, 70% short, and they were both getting a bit more bearish on both parts there. Services PMI out this week, and GDP on the 9th. Now we get the monthly GDP and the quarterly figures coming out on, I believe that's on Friday. We've also got the manufacturing production figure out on the 9th there. So quite a lot of data coming out all in one clump there actually on the 9th. The pound at the moment weekly, as I said, it's trending down, but we've got the double bottoms area as we've got with the euro there, but a bit more indecisive there on the dailies, which we could go either way. Anything positive on Brexit could see the pound absolutely fly, and there is that risk that remains with trading the pound. Dollar yen, ruled out near-term increase. That was mentioned this morning, early hours this morning. Short side, it's gone a bit neutral here in terms of change-wise, not a lot of change, and the shorts themselves, slightly more shorts coming in from hedge funds, so it's still bearish sentiment coming in. Central Bank 31st, that's already happened. Sorry, I meant to delete that off. That was last week, but we've got risk flows still is a risk with the Bank of Japan. I mean, or the with the Japanese yen is a risk. Is that the risk of trading it in terms of if people start panicking, all of a sudden money suddenly pushes into the yen, and so if you're bullish, which is what the trends are, the weekly and daily trends are both effectively bullish, but you can become quite bullish on those, and then all of a sudden you find it's rolling over because of some poor news or something. Aussie dollar, no real changes coming in here. Now, it was expected the next change would be 2019, November 2019, which is obviously this month, on the 6th of. But I'm seeing that sort of the potential next change. Well, it's not really likely to be changing at the moment. It's what I'm seeing in the forecast is a flat number, so no change expected there at the moment. Now, the markets, the slight bullishness coming through, asset and hedge funds reducing their short positions down to 85% from about 90, I think it was previously, and the hedge funds dropping down to 67% short. So they are reducing, getting a tad more bullish before this news, and we could see the daily trend line trend is up a little bit, but that's pretty key on the 6th. That's tomorrow, and then on Friday, on the 9th. Which is Thursday, is it? Anyway, that's where we are from there. I'm just checking it is Friday tonight, sorry. Okay, and finally the Canadian dollar, Canadian dollar 1.75, well, that was increased the week before last. Long positions coming down a little bit to 59, shorts increasing from a hedge fund perspective. Sorry, dropping rather. longs reducing by asset managers, so that's reducing, so they're getting a little bit edging towards a bit more bearishness. But the short side, on the other hand, is reducing. It's they're getting a bit more bullish by the hedge fund managers. So one's getting bearish, the other's getting bullish here. So maybe a bit of a part where we may see the CAD go a bit sideways. Okay, we've already seen the governor speak. He's already spoken on the 5th here, and he was as flat as awkward as those asset managers. We could see a move go up, or we could see a move come down next. That was basically what he said, and it was as well, muddy as they come. New Zealand dollar, well, we're at 175 there. Shorts and both shorts from asset fund managers and hedge fund managers sitting at around about the same sort of levels, maybe marginally different, marginally less short, but not much. I still wonder if we'll see these unwind and give a much bigger move on the New Zealand dollar. But we have got employment data tomorrow, and then we've got inflation on the 7th, along with the rate statement on the 7th. So plenty of data coming out there on the 7th, which and it's the afternoon stroke evening figures for the rate statement. Inflation report in the morning, early hours of the morning, 2 o'clock UK time, and then these figures here are in the evening. Okay, and S&P's what they're doing. Well, in terms of the sentiment, looking at it, interesting, the asset hedge, they've got less long, they're reducing their longs, and the hedge funds are reducing their shorts. So it's a bit of a funny old pattern, and it's a case they're not too sure by the looks of things, and the weekly trend is not overly clear. A daily trend, I've left it here, really is predominantly lower, but it could pitch up. Just a reminder then, speakers this week, well, we've already had the Bank of Canada Governor Poles speaking, but he's done, and now we've got the 7th, we've got the 9 o'clock, we've got the Royal Bank of New Zealand press conference there. So that's pretty much it for this week. Quite a lot there to take into account. Obviously the key factors is just watch out for these news events that are coming out, mainly 6th, 8th, 9th and a bit of 7th if you're looking at the New Zealand dollar. Have a great week. Bye for now.